Greetings, Missouri Mid-South Conference. I bring you greetings today from St. Peter's United Church of Christ here in Washington, Missouri, where today, as I am filming this on Thursday, we just had our Eastern Association Committee on Ministry meeting. And so I give thanks for this wonderful church and for the other churches that often have the Committee on Ministry meetings, Salem United Church of Christ in Higginsville, and First Congregational Church in Webster Groves, that our committees on ministry can meet on a monthly basis. I give thanks also for this time of personnel opportunities in the Missouri Mid-South Conference, and I wanted to share some of those with you. First, I wanted to give you an update about Shannondale Ministries. As you know, Jeff Falk, the Executive Director of Shannondale Ministries, announced his resignation after 22 years. Effective at the beginning of October. And so we have hired Nathan Falk as the interim executive director of Shannondale Ministries through the end of 2017 in order to kind of get us through some other things and to get us to the point that we can have a search process for this position. If Nathan's last name sounds familiar, it's because he is the son of Jeff Falk. Nathan grew up at the Shannondale property. He knows the community, he knows the church, he knows the people, he knows the property, and he knows the lodges and the business part of Shannondale Ministries, and he knows the ministry, the very essence of God's love in this area of the Ozarks. And so Nathan is in his 20s and will be starting on October 1st. I met Nathan for the first time at the celebration that the community had for Jeff's ministry at Shannondale Ministries in the community center. And here's what I will tell you. Nathan is already loved and beloved by the neighbors and by the church and by the community of Shannondale Ministries. I think he brings much to this position in terms of his knowledge of the property, his knowledge of timber sales, his knowledge of the condition of the community center and the lodges, and his knowledge of the possibilities of what can be through social media and other technological advances. And so I hope that you will welcome Nathan as he begins ministry with us at Shannondale Ministry as the interim executive minister. The next area are the two positions that we will be hiring and will be starting on October 2nd in place of the retirement of the Reverend Dale Parson as our Associate Conference Minister. As you know, after Dale announced his retirement and I shared kind of the discernment and the process of what that hiring process would look like. Since we have begun the process and conversation with the Kansas-Oklahoma Conference in terms of what uniting possibilities there might be, we knew that we really couldn't and shouldn't go through a formal call process where you have an interim associate conference minister and then you call somebody as the settled, because in 2 to 5 years we don't know what this position of associate conference minister is going to look like, because we don't know what this conversation and uniting possibilities with the Kansas-Oklahoma Conference is going to look like. And so instead, what the Personnel Committee and I did, and was affirmed by the Conference Council in August, was that we would hire 2 part-time positions, ministry positions, but that they would not be called for a permanent position, and they would not be called by the conference, i.e., meaning that the conference would vote on this position. Instead, that they would be hired for a part-time position, and they would be hired for a temporary time frame, which is 24 months or 2 years. And so after the Conference Council approved these 2 job descriptions, and the Personnel Committee and I posted this on our e-courier and the communications, and invited people to submit their profiles, and we received a number of wonderful profiles for both positions. And so we had 2 rounds of interviews with candidates. The first round of interviews, I did the interviews. The second round, the Personnel Committee and I did the interviews. And the Personnel Committee and I have voted on and approved the hiring of the following people for these 2 positions. For the Minister of Search and Call Discernment, this minister is the Reverend Tyler Connolly. You may remember Tyler as the Sabbatical Associate Conference Minister when Reverend Parson was on sabbatical last year in 2016. He has his church membership, is currently at Peace United Church of Christ in Webster Groves, which means that he is a part of the St. Louis Association. He is also right now serving in the Eastern Association as the supply pastor for Emmanuel United Church of Christ of Weldon Springs. And so I am looking forward to Tyler's knowledge, experience, and wisdom in the area of the search and call process and discernment, which he has training in spiritual discernment for both the local churches, but also for ministers within the Missouri Mid-South Conference, ministers beyond our conference that are UCC, and ministers beyond the UCC. I think that Tyler has gifts and strengths in this area that will enable him to effectively lead us in providing opportunities for ministry, substantial ministry, both in part-time, in bivocational, in 3/4 time, in full-time, in supply, in interim, and in settled. These are all opportunities that are moving and changing amongst us. And what I appreciate about Tyler and his ministry and his leadership abilities is that he is living out what we are inviting churches and ministers to consider, and that is a bivocational ministry. He is currently a supply pastor, so he knows the needs of a local church. He knows what it takes for a local church to fill in some of those pastoral leadership needs, as well as he knows what it is to be a minister and to be willing to think outside of the traditional box of full-time called ministry position of a pastor position. And so I think that this really lends for his ability to work well with all different aspects of the Missouri Mid-South Conference in providing strong and substantive ministry in our local churches in the Missouri Mid-South Conference. So that is Tyler, and I will say a big woohoo! The second position is the Minister for Authorized Ministry Development. And this position will be led and ministered by the Reverend Nia Chandler. Reverend Chandler currently serves as Associate Pastor of St. Mark's Union United Church of Christ in Kansas City. And she also serves as the Communications Consultant for the Missouri Mid-South Conference. I'd like to speak for a moment about this position and how this will work with her new part-time position as Minister for Authorized Ministry Development. As the Personnel Committee and I sat with the candidates and who were the strongest and had the strongest skills and needs from the needs of the conference, Nia provided those skills and is the most qualified and abled in terms of that. And so what we decided to do was that because Nia is currently a contract hired in a contract role as a consultant, communications consultant, and because that contract ends at the end of 2018, which is a different time frame than the 2 years of the Minister for Authorized Ministry Development, what we decided to do was keep them separate, and that there would be times in which Nia's work as communications consultant. She'll be doing that for 10 to 12 hours a week. That there may be times where she and we say, this is Nia with her communications consultant hat on, where she is providing infrastructure, IT infrastructure, and she is providing resources for our covenant ministry teams and working in the conference office with the conference office staff and developing that IT infrastructure. And that is completely and focused on her role as communication consultant. Her new position is as Minister for Authorized Ministry Development, which means that she will serve as the liaison with all 4 of our committees on ministry. I believe that Nia is the most qualified in terms of not only her experience. She has served and is currently serving on the Western Association Committee on Ministry, which she will step down from, and someone else will serve in that position so that she can serve as conference ministry staff for not only the Western Association Committee on Ministry, but all 4 of our committees on ministry. But also because Reverend Nia has learned and read very studiously the new manual ministry. She has learned and understood the data hub from her role on the Western Association Committee on Ministry, but also in terms of her own experience, that she is relatively new to the United Church of Christ, and she came in through this process. So she knows what it is to come in from the other perspective as one who is coming in privilege of call and in that perspective, and can give some guidance, can give some support in the multiple paths of ordained and authorized ministry in the UCC. She also has strong skills in the terms of organization and administration, which are very much needed as you move from one committee on ministry to the other. And she will be providing those links that are connectors for all 4 committees on ministry, related to boundary training, related to information reviews, related to how are we going to develop racial, cultural sensitivity training for the Missouri Mid-South Conference, and hopefully that we can be a model for the broader United Church of Christ. These are the reasons why I believe that Nia is going to be a strong and valued minister with us in the Missouri Mid-South Conference as the Minister for Authorized Ministry Development. And so I say a big woohoo! So, both Nia and Tyler are part-time, which means that we will be checking in and making sure that we all keep good boundaries, that some things that used to be done by the Associate Conference ministers, whether that was Reverend Parson or former Associate Conference ministers in the past, because they were full-time, that may not be able to be done. And in some ways, this again is what we are practicing what we are preaching to our local churches and ministers, that just as we are saying to local churches that our church leadership has to figure out how to do some of those pastoral responsibilities that can no longer be done by a part-time interim or supply or a part-time called pastor. So too, we in the Missouri Mid-South Conference will need to figure out how do we take care of some of those responsibilities in different areas of the leadership of the Missouri Mid-South Conference. And so I give thanks for the ways in which we are going to be the conference ministry leadership team together. Reverend Connolly, Reverend Chandler, and myself will be offering this ministry and creativity, as well as boundaries and spiritual awareness of who God is calling us to be as the Missouri Mid-South Conference in these critical next 2 years of ministry together. Both Nia and Tyler will begin on Monday, October 2nd, They both will have offices at the conference office in St. Louis or Webster Groves at Eden Theological Seminary. However, as we celebrate that Nia is in the Western Association, that means that she too will have a home office in Kansas City, and that she will come in regularly for the committees on ministry meetings, for our all staff meetings, monthly meetings, which she had already been doing in her role as communications consultant. She will also be traveling to the other committee on ministry meetings. And for Tyler, he will have also his office at the conference office, but he will have his own home office, which may be in his home in St. Louis, and it may also be at his church office in Weldon Springs in the Eastern Association. He too will be traveling in and throughout the conference, meeting with churches as they initiate that beginning point of the search and call process. And all three of us will be traveling throughout the conference and sharing responsibilities in terms of bringing greetings to association meetings, to cluster meetings, to clergy gatherings, to installations and ordinations and anniversary services. As much as we are able, the three of us will provide conference ministry staff leadership in these opportunities of traveling throughout Arkansas, Memphis, and Missouri. So, there is a lot going on, and it is so exciting. And I invite you to be in prayer and support for Nathan, for Nia, and for Tyler, as I know that you have been in prayer and support for me. And I just want to say thank you for your prayers, your love, as this time has been a time of transition. I have said to some of you that of the 7 positions, staff positions of the conference, in 6 months, 5 of those 7 have either resigned or retired. And we are slowly in the process of hiring those new or interim people in those positions. And so there's a lot of transition that's happening, and I appreciate your prayers and your strength and your love and your understanding when I forget something. And I welcome our prayers in this time. I have asked all 3 of them to introduce themselves so that you will get to know them in a personal way. And so I invite you to watch these videos next and to learn more about each of them and their ministries and the ways in which God is calling them to the Missouri Mid-South Conference here and now. Oh, my friends, what a joyful time it is to be the body of Christ as the United Church of Christ and as the Missouri Mid-South Conference. And all that we are doing as we are serving beloved community now, let us celebrate how we are in ministry together this day and forevermore. Amen.